Hello everybody, this is General Yanis, and today in Death Card Tactics I will be comparing the Greater Blightdrone with the new rules it got from the Imperial Armor Compendium compared to the other Demon Engines of the Death Guard army. So let's get started. Alright, so in my previous video I looked at the new rules and point cost for the Greater Blightdrone, and in this video I'm adding it in the comparison with the other Demon Engines for Death Guard, including also the new weapon updates that have come for the Demon Engines, like Multi-Melta for the Myphitic Blighthauler, Heavy Bolter for the Defiler, etc. So I will be comparing the Plagueburst Crawler, the Foetid Bloatdrone, the Myphitic Blighthauler, the Defiler, and the Greater Blightdrone. Before I do, I would like to express a big thanks to all the viewers of the channel for your continued support and kind words. And now we have reached a milestone of over 300 subscribers to the channel. And with the number 300, I will just open a small historical parenthesis. And did you know that apart from the 300 Spartans, also 700 Thespians actually stayed and fought in Thermopylae? So when asked to leave, the Leonidas, realizing that they were surrounded by the Persian, it was only a matter of time until they got surrounded. He ordered all the other Greek allies to leave and fight another day. But the Thespians, numbering 700, they stayed, and the Thespian leader replied, "No, Leonidas, we will not leave you and allow you to take the glory of Thermopylae alone." And little known fact maybe is that additionally the Spartans, they kept with them 4,000 helots that were like their auxiliary support troops, borderline slaves for the Spartans, to assist them in the final battle. So closing this historical parenthesis, let's go on with the Demon Engines and the Greater Blightdrone. Alright, so I will be comparing the Demon Engines in several categories and roles. First of all, the damage output, where I will be looking at the graphs and some damage table for select targets. Damage output at long range, short range, point blank, and melee only. And then I will be looking, of course, very important for Death Card is the durability and mobility and accuracy of these Demon Engines. So I have not looked at all. I will not look at all the weapon loadouts for these Demon Engines. It will be the most important ones, most interesting ones where applicable. I haven't included any reroll ones to hit in the analysis. I have included the reroll ones to wound, of course, for plague weapons. I haven't included the Arch Contaminator. An Arch Contaminator would help some of the units, but not some of the others. I didn't include any other modifiers to hit or wound, and I have the damage has been calculated with a fresh unit profile, not a degraded profile. And I have, as I said, I have looked at the updated weapon rules and point cost for the units. So let's start by the damage output. So if we look at the damage output for long range shooting, more than 24 inches, here is presented the average damage output corrected to 100 points, because some of the units cost different points, of course. And in this type of graph I've been using in my analysis, here are the targets. Here you can see the average damage in number of wounds per 100 points. Here are the targets. Here are targets with 4+ invul save, and in these targets over here they don't have invul save, and each targets group are bunched together with the armor save. So here we have 2+ armor save, 3+ armor save, 4+, 5+, etc. And for every group, the targets start with a toughness 3, and then 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 toughness. So basically you are able to find a large variety of targets here. So for example, with a 2+ save and toughness 5 and 4+ invul save, you would have a Blightlord Terminator here. With a toughness 4, 3+ save and no invul save, you would have an Intercessor. With a 6+ save and toughness 4, no invul save, you have an Orc Boy, and you can basically find a lot of the units in the Warhammer world here. So, but if we look at the results for the long range shooting, we see the light blue curve is the Myphitic Blighthauler, assuming they are 3 in the unit with 3+ to hit. Then this has the highest the highest damage, long-range damage, followed by the Plagueburst crawler with accelerated entropy cannons and the slugger, 460 points, the dark blue. And then we have the Defiler with a twin lascannon on twin heavy bolter in the third position. So it's like the brown and the gray curve. They are like third. And here we see the Greater Blightdrone. It doesn't have, it's in the bottom of the damage. It doesn't do so much damage in long range. Of course, a Foetid Bloatdrone with a flesh mower or a Foetid Bloatdrone with a spitter don't even do any damage at long range. So they are in the bottom here. If we continue looking at short range, so if the units come within 12 inches, now the average damage output improves for the Myphitic Blighthauler. Now it's clearly the best one because now it can shoot the Bile Spurt weapon, and additionally the Multi-Melta now does additional damage. Here I'm also assuming a multi-wound targets here. So of course, if you were shooting at a one-wound target, you would not be able to do so much with a Multi-Melta. So basically the Multi-Melta is, if it hits and goes through, it can do 5.5 damage per shot. The second place is Plagueburst crawler with entropy cannons and speeders. The Plagueburst crawler with speeders is the orange line, so it's better for weaker targets with not so good armor save than the entropy cannons. But again, entropy cannons are better versus multi-wound targets, and the speeders are better with lower wound targets because you have a lot of one wound shots. The Greater Blightdrone is the green curve. It's in the bottom tier and not very impressive damage. If we continue and say that we are starting the phase locked in melee combat, and first the Daemon Engines can shoot their weapons in the shooting phase if they are not blast weapons, and then they add the melee in the fight phase. Here we see the Myphitic Blighthauler is still doing good damage. Basically, the Multi-Melta can do big damage in the close range, and it doesn't have -1 to hit because it's an assault weapon and not a heavy weapon. And then we have the Defiler armed with a Defiler Scourge does also very good damage because it's doing a lot of good damage in melee. And the Foetid Bloatdrone, the yellow line with Flesh Mower, is in third place. And then Greater Blightdrone is in the mid tier, and Plagueburst Crawler is at the bottom now because it's not very good in melee, and it has -1 to hit with its weapons. So looking at the melee only average damage output, then we have the Defiler with a Defiler Scourge is at the top, doing the most damage. The dark blue here is the Reaper autocannon, so it's a bit cheaper than the Defiler with a twin heavy bolter here. And then we have the Foetid Bloatdrone with the Flesh Mower in the second place, and the Greater Blightdrone and the others, Myphitic Blighthauler and Foetid Bloatdrone with speeders, are down here, and the Plagueburst Crawler is clearly at the bottom here. It doesn't have good melee capabilities. Looking at some of the damage tables for selected targets, here we have the damage versus aggressors in long range, short range, point blank, and melee only. And here we have the various Daemon Engines with various configurations. I will not go through these tables in great detail, but if you want to, you can pause and see some details here. But basically we see again confirmation that in long range we have the Myphitic Blighthauler with PBC, Plagueburst Crawler with entropy cannons, keeping the damage as short range. And then when we come to point blank and melee or melee only, we start going that the Defiler and the Foetid Bloatdrone with a Flesh Mower become the most damaging units. And here you can see the Greater Blightdrone is not very, doesn't give you very high damage for the point cost. Yeah, the damage table is corrected per 100 points. And we see a target with toughness 7 and invul save. Basically it's the same type of ranking, but now of course the damage is lower against this tougher target. And here it's continued with a toughness 8 and 2+ save target like a Land Raider. Again, the relative and which units are doing the best damage is basically the same. And here is damage versus intercessors. So And then the final damage table, I made one for a horde type enemy where you have a lot of models with only 1 wound. So here I assume 20 orc boys with 1 wound. They have toughness 4 and save 6+. And here I just, for simplicity, I take that the Daemon Engine can shoot all its weapons, and then it can make a fight in melee. And here you can see, so in this kind you're losing some damage for some of the heavy weapons, like for example entropy cannons are not so good because it doesn't help you to do the d6 damage against the horde enemy. Of course, the blast mortar of the Plagueburst crawler now will get maximum number of shots, but here, for example, the Plagueburst crawler with the speeders is better against the horde. The Myphitic Blighthauler still does good damage here, using the frag missile, which is a blast weapon. The multi-melta, of course, it has to use, and the bile spurt is also a blast weapon. And the Greater Blightdrone can also do quite good damage here because it also has the flamer type auto hit weapon. So all of them can do some damage, but of course the multi-wound weapons don't really do a lot of extra damage against the horde type enemies. Now going to the durability. So here is the different configurations, and here I'm looking at the point cost. If then we know that the Plagueburst crawlers, the Foetid Bloatdrone, the Myphitic Blighthauler, and the Greater Blightdrone now all come equipped with Disgusting Resilience that improves the wounds by around 50%. They can take, let's say, 50% more shots based on the Disgusting Resilience. The Defiler doesn't have the Disgusting Resilience, but you can get it for 2 command points, which could be quite expensive per Defiler you want to do. Here are the wounds of the unit, not cost corrected, and the toughness of the unit. Of course, the Plagueburst crawler and the Defiler had toughness 8, while the fast attack units had toughness 7. So if we look at the wounds with Disgusting Resilient equivalent per 100 points, we see that the Foetid Bloatdrone with the mower, the Myphitic Blighthauler, and the Plagueburst crawler with entropy cannons offer the best number of, let's say, equivalent wounds per 100 points. The Plagueburst crawler has an advantage having higher toughness, and the Myphitic Blighthauler is -1 to hit in melee. The Defiler, if you give it the Disgusting Resilience, it can offer you the best durability per 100 points. But if you don't include it, then it's considerably lower. It can take considerably lower wounds per 100 points. The Greater Bloatdrone is okay durable now that it got Disgusting Resilient and the point cost was reduced. Finally, looking at mobility and accuracy. So if we look at the mobility, the Greater Blightdrone has a move characteristic of 14 inches. The best one in the army. It doesn't have brackets, so it cannot degrade its mobility, and it can fly. So basically, you have here the most mobile unit in the army. The Foetid Bloatdrone can also fly. It has a move characteristic of 10 inch, which is quite good, but it can degrade if it loses some wounds down to 8-inch move or 6-inch move. The Myphitic Blighthauler has a 10-inch move and it cannot degrade, so this is quite good, but it cannot fly, so it's maybe more difficult to move around. But still, the Foetid Bloatdrone and Myphitic Blighthauler are quite mobile. The Plagueburst crawler has a nice move characteristic of 9-inch, but it can degrade down to 6-inch or 4-inch if it loses wounds, and it cannot fly, of course, and it's quite a big model to navigate in the battlefield. The Defiler is, let's say, the least mobile, and with 8-inch move, and it can also degrade down to 6-inch and 4-inch. So the Greater Blightdrone, of course, is the winner of this category with the fastest unit, and it can fly ability, and it doesn't degrade the mobility. So the Greater Blightdrone would be able to move around a lot on the battlefield, maybe scoring you secondaries or primary points. If we look at the accuracy, here we are looking for every unit. We are looking the ballistic skill, if it can degrade, if it has access to auto hit weapons, and then we have the weapon skill, and if it's degrading the weapon skill. So if we start by the Greater Blightdrone, it has a good ballistic skill of 3+ and a weapon skill of 3+ that don't degrade, and it has also auto hit weapon, which it has a flamer type weapon with the new rules now. The Myphitic Blighthauler has a 3+ and ballistic skill and 3+ weapon skill, provided that there are 3 in the unit. So basically, if one unit in the unit one model in the unit is dead, then you have 4+ ballistic skill and 4+ weapon skill, and it doesn't have any auto hit weapons. The Foetid Bloatdrone has a 4+ ballistic skill and weapon skill that don't degrade, and it's also having auto hit weapons with the speeders. The Defiler has a ballistic skill of 4+ and weapon skill of 4+. The ballistic skill degrades if it loses wound and becomes a 5+, which is quite difficult to hit, let's say, to hit with. It has also auto hit weapons, so you can take the Twin Heavy Flamer if you want to mitigate the poor ballistic skill. The Plagueburst Crawler is, let's say, the least accurate. In ballistic skill it's only 4+, and weapon skill is only 6+. It's basically it has the worst weapon skill, and it doesn't have, as we saw before, any significant melee capabilities. And it's degrading the ballistic skill if it loses wound. So the Greater Blightdrone offers the best accuracy, but it's a non-degrading 3+ for ballistic skill and weapon skill. However, as we saw before in the damage table, the accuracy doesn't help it. The weapons are not so potent to make a lot of damage in any case. The Myphitic Blighthaulers have also a 3+ if they have a unit of 3 until one model dies. So some final thoughts and summary. As the best overall unit, looking across the table, I think still we have the 3 Myphitic Blighthauler in a unit because they have very good weapons now. The Multi-Melta has very good weapon rules for multi-wound targets, and it has a good accuracy, good mobility, overall good durability. Basically, it is very good in all categories. If we look at the units that do best damage at long range, then we have the Myphitic Blighthauler and the Plagueburst Crawler with the entropy cannons. In short range damage, we have still the Myphitic Blighthauler versus multi-wound targets, and then if we have, let's say, smaller wound targets, then the speeders become an option with the Plagueburst Crawler or the Foetid Bloatdrone. In point blank and melee damage, then the Defiler is doing the most damage with the Defiler Scourge weapon option, and the Myphitic Blighthauler still does good damage. Point blank with the Melta gun is quite good. In melee damage, the Defiler is really the superstar, and the Foetid Bloatdrone with the Flesh Mower is in the second place. And if we look at durability, then we have the Plagueburst Crawler, the Myphitic Blighthauler, and the Foetid Bloatdrone armed with a Flesh Mower offer you the best durability. The Greater Blightdrone also has good durability, and the Defiler basically needs the 2 command points for Disgusting Resilient to be as durable. If you don't spend the 2 command point, it's the least durable of these Daemon Engines. And if we look at the mobility and accuracy, then of course the Greater Blightdrone is the fastest and most accurate unit, but it doesn't translate to very high damage for the Greater Blightdrone. And then we have the Myphitic Blighthauler and the Foetid Bloatdrone that are also quite mobile and can also fly, the Foetid Bloatdrone. So with these words, this summarizes this video and this comparison. What are your thoughts about the new rules for the Greater Blightdrone, and have you had any experience using it, and what are your thoughts in general about the Daemon Engines? If you like this video, please press like, leave a comment, and you can also help the channel by subscribing, and I will be posting, of course, more analysis and videos of death card tactics going forward. So with these words, General Yanis is signing out. Stay safe out there, and bye-bye.